I'm back with another Cerebral solo. Forgive me if I seem kind of off today. I am dealing with a really bad headache right now. But this video is something that I've been thinking about a lot lately, and I've spoken about in other interviews that I've done on my podcast, and I've mentioned it briefly on other people's podcasts, but I never really got to go in depth with it, and I want to use this Cerebral solo to go more in depth, and that is the topic of financials and disability and how all that intermingles and that kind of stuff. Well, not exact, not like the factuals and all that sort of stuff, but how I tend or how I see it from my point of view, and how it all works from my eyes and in my point of view, and how it can be a benefit, but it can also be a sort of a hindrance. And I know when I start to talk about this, I may ruffle a few feathers, but I feel like it's something that needs to be out there and needs to be, kind of thought about more. And I just want to, tell my side of things, and how I see things and give my perspective. So when it comes to everything, with financials and stuff, I feel like, and this isn't towards the people with disabilities who absolutely have to rely on it like as a source of income because they aren't able to work, they aren't able to provide for themselves and make their own income. This is more for the people who want to make more money, have more income, and just be more independent. This is more for that side. This is more for that side because I feel like when we rely on, specifically when we rely on those benefits, I feel like we get trapped into a box because there's a limit to how much we can make, and if we do work, there's a limit to how much we can work, and then we have to report the wages, and then if we end up making too much, our checks end up our benefits checks end up getting cut. And I know because I've been told this multiple times, and I know it's not supposed to be a secondary source of income. It's supposed to supplement what you already make. But at the same time, for the people who have to rely on it, why isn't it? My question is, why isn't it more? Especially for the ones who live on their own, and have bills to pay and all this other sort of stuff. Why is it that it's only X amount? Because it severely limits options, in my opinion, and it doesn't give them the opportunity to want to do more. And I know there's people with disabilities who have the ability to work, who want to do more, but they feel like they're stifled because it's kind of like, oh, I would want to do this, but if I do this, and then this gets cut, and if this gets cut, this affects this, or this will happen with this, and so on and so forth. And I feel like that's very And I feel like that's very, very unfair. So a question that I asked in my cerebral palsy group earlier today was, what do you think can be done to do more for people with disabilities financially? And for the people who for the people who have benefits who solely rely on them, why do you think more isn't given, or more isn't being done to help with you guys who specifically rely on those benefits? And I'm really, really curious to know what what your guys' answers are. If you guys want to, comment in the comments, or I'm going to be sharing the link on this pieces of this video on social media. Specifically, this question I'm going to be sharing across my social medias, and I really, really would want to know your guys' answer. And for the parents as well, for the parents who have kids with disabilities, why do you think that's what are your guys' takes on my question that I posed? But to get back to it, I feel like when it comes to the finances, I feel like they expect us to not be as independent as we could be, because because when it comes to people with disabilities, they automatically think that we're always going to need caregivers, or we're always going to need somebody trying to help us and take care of us when it comes to certain things. When that's not always the case. There are people with disabilities who can function perfectly fine on their own in society. Yeah, they may need extra help, but that extra help it might not always be financially. It may be, with certain equipment, or with certain tools. But I can understand why the benefits would, be helpful in that case. But what about the people who feel like they can do more. They can earn a better position, but at the same time they're worried about, oh, well, if I get this better position, then my benefits will be cut off, and if my benefits are cut off, then XYZ and 1, 2, 3. I'm not. Again, this is all over the place because I'm kind of dealing with a headache, but I feel like it. I feel like it kind of stifles us wanting to improve, and I think the hope, and in my opinion, people with disabilities are kind of like the most and I mentioned it before. I feel like we're the most creative people, because we're always problem solving and finding ways to adapt to our situations. But at the same time, when it comes to finances, I don't feel like, especially with benefits, it kind of stifles that creativity in a sense, to where it kind of puts it, like I was saying before, it kind of puts us in a box and kind of limits us to what we can do. So again, I'm going to ask the question, what do you think we can do as a society to, help improve those situations? And again, I'm going to ask the parents, what do you think, from your perspective, we can do to improve? So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. I know I I know I'm like all over the place. I know I'm all over the place and really didn't explain myself too well. But I hope I got the general gist across, and I would love to hear your guys' thoughts.